guys, I'm Jontel. Welcome to Seed Starting with the Morris Microstead. Okay, so I told myself I wasn't going to do a seed starting video because I've been so busy with my 4-month-old and school, but the further I go and the more questions I get, I feel like I have to just go ahead and dive in and do it. So let's get started. My first year gardening, I remember going to the store being so excited about all the varieties. I went and grabbed all of the stuff from the shelf, and I threw a couple things in seed pots indoors, a couple things outside. I just had no idea what I was doing. I was really excited for all of the Pinterest, do-it-yourself hacks, planting in the little egg crates, upcycling, using the toilet paper tubes, all of that stuff. And man, I just had no idea. So I did this. I put actually, I'll be honest, my husband was like, we don't need to buy soil. And so we dug dirt out of our pasture, put it in these cardboard tubes, got them wet, put the seeds in there, and then put them in a dark, cold room in a window that had no sun, and then things just kind of came up, got really leggy, and was like womp womp, died right off. So and then I was like, whatever, I'll just sow them in the ground outside. And so we sowed stuff outside, and we got a lot of zucchini and a lot of cilantro. But a lot of the flowers that I wanted to grow didn't come up, and I had no idea why. I didn't know that we had a short growing season and that these things needed to be sown. Some of them have to be sown in the fall so that they get the frost and stuff to germinate in the spring. There's so many variants, or some of them have a 12-week germination period, and so you have to start them 12 weeks before the what's it called, the first frost date. And so if you plant them after the first frost date, then they don't have enough time to germinate and grow and bloom by the time we were way up north. So by the time that we had our last frost of the year, in September, things had never germinated. So couple things that I want to share with you. A lot of people like to use those egg crates to get started. We're going to start with pots. A lot of people used to like to use the egg crates or the toilet paper tubes. I highly advise against those. Egg crates especially, because you can't put enough soil in those for the seeds to establish, or the seedlings I should say, to establish a good, healthy, deep root system. You want roots to your deep so that it's a nice, solid, healthy, established plant when you put it in the ground, right? Same thing with the toilet paper tubes. It's a great upcycling, but unless you're gonna put lettuces, I suppose would be okay if you're only gonna germinate them for 4 weeks. But after 4 weeks, you're out of time. You have to get those things into the ground, and they're still tiny, so you're gonna get birds and bugs that come and just eat those right up. So what I do advise is 3-inch pots, making sure mine's not dripping. That's about this size. That's gonna give you a good 2, maybe 3 months of growth before you have to transplant into something larger. For me, now I know everybody says don't start your tomatoes too early. I'm giving you permission. You go ahead and start those tomatoes early. It's a lot of work to start tomatoes early, and you can just start them in March. But I start getting super antsy at the end of January, and I put my seeds in the soil. You have to up-pot them. You have to put them under lights. You have to keep them happy in a reasonable temperature because they like it warm. You have to pinch blossoms. You have to feed them when you put them in the soil, or you could just plant them out in March and get approximately the same results. So That's up to you. I like to have plants in my house, but anyways, I think I was going on that tangent for like potting up. So, but anyways, these will last you like 2 months at least. And oh, we already have roots in the bottom. So, so yeah, pots, 3 inches at least. Okay, next we're going to talk about soil. I don't have a bag with me. So you want to use seed starting soil. You can use like potting mix, but I'm going to tell you why seed starting soil is the best soil for your seedlings. So seed starting soil is different from like potting soil or compost because it's heat treated, which kills a lot of the things inside the soil that is going to cause like mold or bacteria growth or anything like that that your seedling has to fight against to survive. It just gives your plant the like best chance at survival in its little tiny bitty stage, right? So it doesn't have a lot of nutrients in it. It's just soil. It's just a growing medium, if you will. And so the reason for that is because all of the nutrients your plant needs holds in the seed, kind of like an egg. I don't know if you guys know, but like chickens are born with all the nutrients they need inside the egg because they're not attached to a placenta feeding the nutrition. The seed is kind of like that. There's a coating on the seed and stuff inside the seed itself that feeds the seed, that gives it the amount of energy it needs to get above the soil and throw roots down before you put it outside in nutrient-rich soil. Isn't that cool? Oh, I love it. Okay, so so you want to use seed starting soil for that. If you're doing like peppers or if you're doing like tomatoes and it's going to take a long time, you're going to have to fertilize those eventually because there isn't any nutrition in the soil, right? So something like seaweed extract, or there's like a kelp and fish extract that you can use, or it's like a fertilizer, something very gentle. We've even used banana peel tea in the past, but that is, I had experienced fruit flies with that. So I don't know, you play around with it. We put it on our peppers for potassium. You do want to consider seed quality. I highly advocate for getting seeds wherever you can get them. But if you can't afford like a huge Baker's Creek haul and you have seeds that are like 5 years old that somebody gifted you, or like who knows, maybe you're pulling like pinto beans out of a like pinto bean bag. Something that you just want to consider is the germination rate. So we plant like 2 to 3, or when we have toddlers helping, lots more than that, seeds per hole for like whatever we can manage. Sometimes the seeds are so tiny you can't help but like put a whole bunch in. And that gives us a better germination rate. If you plant 1 seed and it doesn't germinate, then your whole project is washed and you're going to have to reseed and regerminate, and you might have like a week gone by that time. So putting a couple in there gives you a better chance of germination. If your seeds are old or you're just not sure on them, plant even a few more, right? Just so that you really have a good chance of successful germination. All right, let's talk watering before we talk timing. Watering. So you want your soil to be moist. This one didn't germinate. I have a feeling we didn't get seeds in this one because this was one that the kids helped me with, this tray. So, oh, spicy mustard. You want your soil to be moist when you put the seeds in there, but not like sopping wet, right? But like if you put it in there dry and then water it, usually all the soil is going to settle. And so, so make the soil moist, but then from that point on, you're going to want to bottom water. And this is the reason. And I'll show you what bottom watering is. So this is my seed tray here. Bottom watering essentially is just putting water in the bottom of the tray, but the soil can then soak up itself. There's a couple reasons that this is beneficial. One, you won't wash away your seed when the like aggressive like downpour of water happens upon your poor innocent little seed. And then the second is this reason here. These plants are just teeny tiny. I think they're like 2 weeks old, but we already have roots coming out of the bottom. And the reason for that is because the roots have to go down in order to get the water from the bottom that is being saturated from the bottom. And that's also another reason that we use seed starting soil, jumping back to that, is that the soil is nice and loose and it's easy for the roots to spread out. And because there's no nutrients, those roots are going to go searching. Do you like my hands? Those roots are going to go searching for nutrients and they're going to spread out and again establish that really healthy root system. Okay, now let's talk about timing. Usually people say 4 to 6 weeks, and I totally agree with that. The only exception is just make sure you're reading the back of your package, because that is going to indicate, like celery, for example, takes like 8 to 12 weeks to become a plant worthy of putting out in the soil. So just read the back of your packages. Sometimes they have to be planted in the fall, and so we're like, again, they get that frost, and so direct sowing is just the better option. Next, if you're going to sow indoors versus outdoors, you're gonna need light. Sunny window will do if you have like the weather that's like nice and sunny, or we have a light setup. This is our indoor growing setup. It's just got fluorescent lights and is a baker's rack. And that's what we use for our indoor lights. There are much fancier lights that you can use. This is what works for us. They're just shop lights. Now we're going to talk about thinning, and I'm really excited because I saved this tray to thin just for you guys so you can see the process of thinning. So after you've planted way too many seeds, as you can see in this case, you're going to want to thin them down to 1 and only 1. And the reason for that is because, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious, but basically they don't need to fight, right? Like right now you can see some of them are like leaning over. I don't know if you can see it right here. They're leaning over. They're trying to grow in a way that they get the most sun and the most nutrients and the most everything, and you just have a plant that's like fighting and it doesn't need to. And so I know it's hard, guys. I know you don't want to, but you have to thin them. And you can actually save these. These are spicy mustard greens. They're essentially microgreens. So you can save them and eat them, like top your scrambled eggs, or put them on top of a soup, or add them in a salad or a frittata, or just eat them straight, or feed them to your chickens, but don't waste them. You can put them in your compost, but don't waste them. It's so sad. Oh, you know what? I forgot. I was going to try to put these, transplant one of these into that cup that had nothing germinate. And there we have it. That is our lone survivor. He is going to make the cut. And this one, oh, and you want to thin when they have their true leaves. So when your plant first germinates, they're just going to germinate with, where are these goods? Oh, here we go. They're just going to germinate with these 2 leaves. Where's my finger? These 2 leaves. After a little while, they're going to get a set of true leaves, and that's the true plant. So these are getting their true leaves right here. This plant looks a little wonky the way it was in the seed, so I'm likely to trim this one versus this one just because that looks like bad genetics to me. So over here, this is a cabbage. Again, you can see that might be a mustard green that snuck in here. Again, kids helping. You can see the true leaf coming in. That's what I'm going to choose to go through and thin these. And these are cabbages. Cabbages and spicy greens, spicy mustard greens are what is in this tray. But all of them will look like this, and I will show you an example of that over here. Our butter, isn't that so pretty? This is a friend's. So yeah, this is 1, and I just trimmed these like 2 days ago, but already look at how much bigger they are. These were planted out at the same time as that other tray, but because they don't have to fight for light or water or anything, they just have gotten so big, like just like that, so fast. You might find it weird that I have a baker's rack for starting seeds in my kitchen. Last year it was in my bedroom. We're on a Microstead. This is literally just a house and its backyard. We don't have even a 1/4 acre of space here, and even the house, we had to downsize from where we were up north on our homestead. There's 3 bedrooms. I don't know what the square footage of this house is, but it's not tiny, but it's pretty small, I would say. And the space that we have, I use for, just for living. We also homeschool. There's 5 of us. I don't have an extra room or a grow space for my seedlings, and so whatever space we have is a space that it happens in, and I'm perfectly okay with that. As a matter of fact, I love it. I was really inspired by a friend I had up north. No matter what space she was in, no matter what her resources were, she never had an excuse, and she always made it work. And so I really adopted that, where my heart will cooperate. And that's why we utilize our kitchen space and whatever space we have for the things that we want to get done. Really love that. Do what you can, where you can. And I think that covers the bulk of it, right? Like after about a month, those 4 to 6 weeks, you're gonna transplant those outside. I can't wait to take you guys with me on that process when we go and we put things in the soil. Oh, I'm so excited for that time. But yeah, like love on your tenderlings, talk to them, check in on them, watch them. Like, oh, it's my favorite. That first moment when the spring, like the seedlings just like start to come up and they pop up above the soil. You'll be watching and waiting, and it's gonna be such a joyous moment for you. And don't forget to bring along your kids. This is a science project, you guys. Like this is nature, this is creation. There's so much science here that you can learn. Like I had no idea about the seed containing all of the nutrients that it needs to germinate and grow just right inside of itself. That's so cool. It just points to God's creation. And I love engaging my children with this. When Penelope comes up and she looks at the little seedlings and she goes, oh, it's babies. I'm like, yeah, sweetheart, look, God made this grow. Like, isn't that special? This is gonna be food. Do you remember putting that seed in? What happens? And they just love it. They love it and they eat it up. And don't be discouraged. Like I said, the first year I went out and I did this, I had no idea what I was doing. And I just threw seeds everywhere, and we had our garden fail 4 times. It was like a frost, another frost, plants were growing, the sheep got in and ate down all of our crops. We had to plant it again before it was successful our first year. And I remember being so devastated. I was like, I'm a terrible gardener. And my dad came through and he was like, you're not a terrible gardener. And here's the truth about gardening. He told me this: you have to learn how not to garden before you know how to garden. And so just take every failure as a learning, learn 1,000 ways how not to garden, and just like grow every single year. That's everything. Thank you guys so much for watching and supporting my channel. I'm so grateful to each and every one of you. I can't wait as we get further along in the gardening season to just like watch these plants grow and put them in the ground and share my space with you guys. And that's it, you guys. Thumbs up if you guys learned something new in this video. Like, feel free to leave a comment, and thanks for watching, guys. God bless you. See you next time.